from the Ticats Audio Network. This is the Ticats This Week.
Ticats This Week. We are on the fourth floor, Hamilton Stadium, wrapping up the 2025 season with Simoni Lawrence, with Matt Bucknor, Rick Zamperin here. Thanks for coming out, guys.
Let's go.
Good to be here, boys.
We should have done this from the start.
From the beginning of the year, right?
I don't know about your busy schedule, but
It's tough to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to be here, though.
Matt, let's start with you. How would you describe the 2025 Ticats season?
You know what? There was highs and lows, I think. We'd start this slow start from the season of the get-go, that 0-2 start for Hamilton. But what they did was they ended up going on a run and, got themselves back. And I think for them to be going from the bottom of the barrel last year in 2024 to 2025 being the beast of the East, I think that was one of the big turnarounds for them. I know, obviously, the big thing is to win the Grey Cup. Everybody's going to win the Grey Cup, but that was the disappointment. But there are a lot of things that they can really hang their heads high on, as they had a solid secondary.
Yeah.
And of course the emergence of Philip Ossai, and we saw so much from Julian Howsare and that offense as well, led by Levi, an MOP who I thought should have been an MOP in my opinion, but that's another conversation.
We'll have it.
Yeah. We'll have it. But no, I thought it was there's some highs and lows, but again, a lot of stuff for the Ticat fans and Ticat organization to look forward to for the 2026 season.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some pretty cool performances, some epic wins. The losses that did kind of stick out. Sim, how would you describe 2025 for the Hamilton Tiger Cats?
I would say I always break it down in three things. It was exciting. I loved watching the football team, especially the offense, come and play football games at certain times. I was like, wow, this is interesting football. Like, I'm enjoying this type of style of game they're playing. And then the other one was not good enough, It wasn't good enough, we played good football, but it wasn't good enough. It's not a standard that's able to continue to get better. We could continue to get better and improve. And that was my other thing. My third thing was improvement. We improved from last year, and as a football coach and as a football team, you always want to see constant improvement. So did we improve? Absolutely. And then for the rest of the year, I'm just like, it's just we're the beast of the East until we weren't. Like, the whole year we was just hanging on that. Beast of the East. And then Montreal showed us that we were not the beast of the East in the game when they came in here and played in a hostile environment in Hamilton when all of our fans showed up. So I feel like it was improvement, but it wasn't good enough.
Matt alluded to this. Sim, we'll stick with you on this one. Hamilton started 0-2, and we're thinking, here we go again, like the slow start. But then they won 6 in a row. Then I think they lost 2 in a row. It was a really streaky team the first kind of 2/3 of the season, and then kind of grinding it out to the playoff spot in the last third. What did that say about this team, do you think?
I felt like it just showed like the highs and lows and the ebbs and flows of the season. Like, there was sometimes we got in rhythm and we're like, there's no way that we're gonna lose any games. But then it's all like, you look at it from like a big picture now that we can see the big picture and the season's over. It was like, how good was the East this year? I think we had more wins than 2 teams combined in the Eastern Division, talking about Ottawa and Toronto. So you have to take those games in fact, right? And then it's just like, the improvement, I liked how it was going on runs and stuff, and how like the offense showed at sometimes like, oh my goodness, how good is this offense? It looked like they can't be stopped. But then like when the lights are on, the offense gets stopped. So it's like, I don't know where the team is right now, because at the end of the day, I know that we have to get way better to be able to perform at a high level for next year.
Matt, we could probably say the same thing of a lot of teams in the CFL. Like BC was kind of streaky. Yep. Saskatchewan started hot. Calgary was starting hot. They cooled off. Is that just the CFL?
Yeah, you know what? I played for we played for Orlando Steinauer, and one of the things that he always talked about was kind of dividing the season into thirds. And the first third of the season for Hamilton, again, like you mentioned, it was a slow start, but they ended up picking a few games up. And there were a lot of other teams that did the same thing. BC had a slow start. There were a lot of people that were kind of talking about BC. I know this is not the BC Lions audio network or anything like that, but they had a slow start. But then they ended up being one of the hotter teams to close out the season. Right. And Sask, they came out the gate smoking. Right, and then for them, they actually kind of tapered off near the end, but then they did what they needed to do to seal the West, and then they were able to kind of, I'm sure they weren't trying to take the foot off the gas, but they ended up losing some games near that end of the season, but won when it mattered. Yeah. And I think, for Hamilton, it was the same thing where they had that slow start, pick things up, but in this league, you got to win. You got to win when it matters, right? And so again, like there's still a lot to for Hamilton to hang their heads high on, but of course, ultimately, you talk to any coach in that locker room, anybody in this organization, they're talking about winning Grey Cups, and so that's going to be the goal I'm sure that for that team moving forward.
I don't want to speak for you guys, but me coming into this season, the expectation was, this team has to be better, right? Like 7 wins last year. Was a good building block, but they, let some games fall away. And I thought coming into this season, it was a team that might win 10 or 11 games. They ended up winning 11 games.
Right.
What were your expectations coming into this season?
Yeah, coming in, the expectations were high. They had new defensive coordinator coming in, some fresh faces. I love talking about the secondary, so there's some fresh faces in the secondary that I got excited about. Of course, fresh faces on the D-line, just looking at the defense solely. And then, of course, now we flip it over to the offense. We've got Kenny Lawler, one of the best receivers coming in. So the expectations are high. And, of course, especially with the success that Milanovic has had in this league, that Milanovic isn't going to lose for long. And so for me, it's like, the expectations were high. It's like coming in, it's like we want to see these guys win. And that's why, for us, when we saw them start off slow like they did, we're like, come on, what's going on?
Yeah.
This is not what we were anticipating. Right. And so the expectations were high, and they did live up to those expectations through the regular season. Yeah.
What were you expecting coming into this year?
I expected them to dominate the East Division. I thought that we had the most continuity as far as a head coach and a starting quarterback in the East Division. So if you're saying, hey, Bo Levi is the MOP of the league, and you're saying Scott Milanovic is the offensive coordinator, head coach of the league, and you have both of that, a head coach and a quarterback, and then you go out and add a number one receiver in a league of his own, you have everything. And then you have an offensive line that is consistently good, and you have a running game. You're like, oh, man, we could score 50 points every game. And that's the standard I had, because I'm like, the offense got everything they need to be successful, right? And then you see the defense comes out, and I'm like, oh, my goodness, this defense is getting turnovers for an offense that is extremely explosive, and you're getting turnovers and getting the ball back. So I expected them to walk through the East. I didn't expect them, like you see, like your comparison to the Saskatchewan and the Hamilton Tiger Cats, it wasn't a comparison really, because Saskatchewan ran through the league so much that their season was over halfway through the season. They weren't playing no meaningful games towards the end of the season, where the Hamilton Tiger Cats, they were scratching tooth and nail, and not just scratching tooth and nail on during the season, but certain games could have also went either way, and I expected for our offense to be scoring like 50 points a game. I thought it was going to be like how when we played Toronto that one, or all the times in Toronto, I thought that's what the offense was going to be all season, because you can't tell me we have the offensive-minded coach, and then you got Kenny Lawler, you got Bo Levi, you got Greg Bell. In my opinion, we have one of the most consistent offensive linemen in the whole entire league. And then you got Tim White, and then you have all these resurgence of the great players like Keandre stepped up this season. There's some games that Brandon O'Leary-Orange came, and he looked like how he's supposed to look as a big figure like that. And it just, to me, it didn't meet my expectations of what I thought the season would look like. And then you can say you have that on offense, and then you go to the defensive side, and you're just looking for somebody that can give the team the identity. There's no identity yet on the defense. They got a bunch of good football players that know how to turn the ball over, but on any given day, I can't say, hey, that guy right there, he's going to change the game every single time if anything happens. And I think that's a piece that we're going to be looking for this offseason, and see who can come back from this offseason, taking all this information, because we got a young defense, right? And be like, how can I come back next year ready to push and be in a better role and be able to lead this team?
Do you guys think the youth caught up to Hamilton, like near that tail end of the season?
Yeah, that's going to happen all the time. You could start seeing it with our young players. Right. We had young guys playing linebacker, You know what I'm saying? And that's just what happened. Like, that's why we had to literally go and get some more linebackers that can come in and get that renewed fresh blood, because in the CIS the season's over by Labor Day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where you could see like the eyes getting slow, legs getting heavy, not being able to go through the progressions as fast as they normally should be able to, but that's all part of the game, and that's why your coaches got to get them up to speed on that as well too, because that's part of the game.
Really proves how much of a grind it is, right?
It really is, especially like not only physically but mentally,
yeah.
right? Where you're seeing some of these mistakes that are being made near that tail end of the season. It's like that's not even a physical error. That's just a guy not being locked in a certain space or certain moments. And so I think I personally think that the youth kind of did catch up to them a little bit near the end. Again, hats off to Verisuk. He played well. For the year, he was candidate for Rookie of the Year, right? And so I think there's just so much, there's so much for him to, so much potential. He has a really high ceiling, and I know what that's like too. That rookie season, Sim, you experienced that rookie season too, where the legs are, you said the legs get heavy, but it's important, for guys to lock in, all the young guys to lock in, especially near that tail end of the season.
How much of a mental grind is that first year, especially for an American guy trying to learn the game? Now you have, a guy like Verisuk he knows the rules, he knows the game, but now he's got to extend that like 2 seasons in 1 year.
It just depends on the locker room. It depends who can get these guys up to speed and make them not rookies as fast as possible. And that's the team building atmosphere that you want to see. It's like, Verisuk has all this potential. How can I put as much energy into this guy to make sure that he's playing like his first game started every single week? Because once you show a certain kind of style, that's the standard. Anything less than that, I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Is that beginner's luck or what was it? But like for the whole entire football team, it's their job to get the team up to standard. It's the coach's job to make sure that these players are getting up to standard. I'll tell you, for example, for me in 2012 when I went to Edmonton, I was so blessed to be around guys like J.C. Sherritt, who were ultimate pros and taught you how to play the game, how to learn the game. So that first year, I was like, oh, man, okay, this is what you got to do. All right, this is how you take care of your body. This is what you do. And then I get to Hamilton in 2013, and I'm around Jamal Johnson, and Jamal Johnson was also the ultimate pro. And I was like, okay, this is what he does. And then the thing about it is you have to be a student of the game, and not just a student of the game like football-wise, professionally. You have to see everybody. Like the best mistake is to learn from other people's mistakes. So every time you see something, I remember I was in meeting rooms times and players would say the craziest things, and I'm just like, is he all right? You know what I'm saying? And then it's just like you got to learn how to move around the locker room, how to produce and everything. It's a constant evolution playing football, because the thing that people don't know is football is so week to week, day to day. Like every single day, it's their job upstairs. I'm pointing upstairs because whatever, I'm acting like we're on the football field, to replace you. And that's how you have to think about it every time. Like every single day, they're trying to replace me. So how can I build enough tools in my toolbox to make it impossible for them to replace me? And that's how you have to go about it as soon as you get into the league. And some people don't find that until like their 4th year, and then they'll end up being gone. But as soon as you can lock in to understand that everybody's job is to replace you as an athlete, it'll be how you can perform all season.
It's a great mindset, because the job of the front office is to make the team as best as it could be, right? Like, what was the biggest eye-opener for you in year number 1 in the CFL?
Like my rookie season?
Yeah.
You know what? For me, it was one, how fast the players are moving and how fast the season goes. Right. So you don't have time. One game ends or one practice ends. There's not a lot of time for you to dwell on that practice or dwell on that game. Mm-hmm. You're moving on to the next one, and of course the speed of the game too. So for me, again, coming from CIS, there's of course there's talented players, but now there's guys that are coming from Alabama, Texas, Minnesota. There's guys coming from all over where they're playing at a high level, and so you got to catch up to their speed, or you're going to get, as Sim reference to just now, you're going to get replaced. Right. And so just the speed of the game, speed of practice, the tempo of practice, of course, depending on where you're at, but just moving at a really high level and being able to adjust and adapt to that.
Got to give the Ticats a lot of credit, both the players, the coaching staff, the front office as well, because there was an unexpected occurrence before the season even began. That was Ted Goveia. Revealing his cancer diagnosis, the fight that he went throughout the season. It was certainly a point of inspiration for the players and the coaching staff, but still very tough to go through a season knowing that what he was going through.
Yeah, you know what, and the team, the organization really rallied around each other. You felt that, like, even the games that I came to, we're broadcasting here, but when you could feel the love in the room or in the building, and I thought when they had the tribute the day he passed, and there was the tribute for Ted, and everybody had the Ted jerseys that were hanging up, and it was like a really moving moment, something that I'll honestly never forget. But you could just really tell that everybody was rallying around each other and supporting each other, leaning on each other, which is like really the sign of a really strong organization and a strong team.
Yeah, Sim, I mean, great point that Matt just made too. I mean, this team could have said, man, we're going to lose our GM, like, let's just fold the tent. They didn't. This was a rallying point.
No, absolutely. I think the organization did a great job figuring out how to send such a great GM off, putting all these great players together, him finally getting his dream job and all that. But what we have to be clear of is football is so mentally hard that it always has to be next play. So as much as that was going on, there has to be some kind of sense on the football field, how are we going to move forward and win these games for Ted? You can't let little things linger. It's like when somebody gets injured during the game, you grab the defense, hey, walk away, think about the next play, get ready. Don't wear that, because football's such an emotional game that it bothers you. Even if you don't want it to bother you, if you're thinking about Ted passing away, which is super tragic, it's going to bother you, and it's going to affect those style and the way that you play the game. So there has to be a certain kind of way that you can get on the football field and lock back in. And I feel like the Hamilton Ticats did a good job at that at times.
Just to add to that too, Sim, they use that as inspiration. You could tell the guys even on the football field and even watching on The Maid and the Hammer, how much they were moved and inspired by that, and they all kind of came together as a unit. And again, it is, I agree with you, Sim, it's emotional, it's heavy, and for those guys to kind of come together during that time to make it happen is very remarkable.
Let's give some love to the offense, because it was certainly an offensive showcase time and time again this season, especially those two games in Toronto. Yeah. Bo Levi Mitchell's like fine wine. Kenny Lawler raised everyone's game. How fun was this offense?
It was electric, honestly. You saw with Kenny Lawler, there was a stretch where it was almost every week he had a highlight reel touchdown, a highlight reel reception, or he's putting up. There was a game against Toronto, like we talked about. He had over 200 yards, a handful of TDs, just lighting up the stat sheet. And then Bo Levi, the man is. A lot of people on the outside looking in would say, this guy's at the tail end of his career. He's gonna pack it in. This man went and set records at this stretch of his career, which is best season. Put up the numbers, touchdowns, yards, and then of course low interception rate too. So I thought, Bo, I thought he went above and beyond this year. Again, like I said earlier, I thought he was the MOP this year. Should have been the MOP. I know that, the Rourke had a great season, nothing to take away from him. But I thought Bo was the clear cut MOP, and he showed that week in and week out just with his leadership, and of course kind of taking this offense and really highlighting not only Kenny, but he went and you saw the resurgence. We talked about Keandre Smith, and Keandre Smith went and put over 1,000 yards this year. Then you had Tim White, who also put up over 1,000 yards this year, and so there were a lot of receivers, and then of course leading with Greg Bell too, and those guys, they all came and lit up the stat sheet and put up a lot of points. And of course, we want to see more from them. We would love to see more, and I'm sure they would say the same thing. But I thought, outstanding play from Bo Levi this year, and excited to see what he does next year.
Yeah, Bell with over 1,000 yards. The offensive line, not a lot of sacks, in the upper crust of the CFL in terms of sacks allowed. What did you like most about this offense, Sim?
I liked that they found a balanced attack in Montreal that week. I think that's when you were like, okay, this offense can really go in deep into the playoffs and win games. Because when they were able to get that running game going and getting that little play action game going and being able to get Kenny on those deep comeback routes and then getting Tim White on those dig routes in the middle of the football field, that's when they were most effective. When Bo Levi was looking all around the field and hitting every single wide receiver, that's when the offense was most effective. And then at times it's like, oh my goodness, they're locking into only one style of football. They're getting away from the style of football that made them so successful. So like the offense, even the ebbs and flow was still there, you know. And it's just hard just being a football player. Just like when you see the whole season, you see exactly what happens. Like, and you can tell, I can tell you exactly what happened with everything. But at the end of the day, it's just like the offense was explosive against the teams that they had to be explosive against. Like, against Toronto, you know that they're going to smoke Toronto and do that. Against Ottawa, you know that. Like, the games that, like, I was like, wow, when they went into BC, those are the kind of games that I need to see more of. Like, when you go into BC and you get a win like that in a hostile environment, when you go to Edmonton and get a win in a hostile environment, that's when you could say, okay, now this offense is clicking and doing what they're supposed to be doing. But the thing is, it's like, and that's like the argument that I was arguing. So I was like, yo, both should have got MOP. There's no way. And then I'm sitting there and I'm watching the season. It's like, okay, Rourke, he started off slow. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, where's Vernon Adams? Where is Vernon Adams? You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, he got on a streak, and he was going through a conference that came in our conference because our conference wasn't good. You know what I'm saying? So that's the evolution. It's like, you know, like March Madness is about like the strength of the teams that you're playing matters. Right. It matters because there's things that they could say about the Hamilton Tiger because the things that Hamilton Tiger could say about us, but the truth is still the truth. And at the end of the day, you can't say that you got Bo Levi and Kenny and you going against Alexander and whoever. And if you telling me I got to bet money on the playoff game, I'm taking Bo and Kenny, and it didn't show on the football field. So that's why I'm saying the ebbs and flow is still up and down, and I still think there's a lot of room for improvement, and I think they will get better as when they find out how they can get that right mixture of that Greg Bell, of that Kenny Lawler, of that Tim White or Keandre, because when they're getting everybody the football, tough team to beat. Dangerous team to beat. But when they get the force feeding and getting like people getting 14 targets or this, it's an easy team to beat when it gets like that, as you've seen in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'll stay with you, and we're going to talk about the D-line because we had Casey Sales, the solid guy in the middle. We had a rotation of, Mario Kendricks and Miles Fox. Jose Ramirez came in the late stages, but Julian Howsare coming back to Hamilton. Philip Ossai, the emergence of Philip Ossai. How excited were you to see these guys up front get to the quarterback?
Oh, come on, Rick. You know how excited I was. I was in the booth with you. You heard how excited I was. No, but the thing about it that made it so perfect was that's what we needed. We needed some kind of identity on defense, and Julian Howsare delivered. Because it was like, who's going to step up? And every single week, it's like, Julian's making a play. Julian's making a play. And then even Tyron Garber, he started playing good. Like, he started getting on right before that injury, right before he got hurt. I remember watching him play. I'm like, oh, my gosh. This kid's looking really good. He was getting the 50-50 technique down. He was getting to the quarterback. And I was like, oh, he's starting to play good. And then he got injured. And you know that Wally Pipp, boy. Do your homework on Wally Pipp, y'all. Because Philip Ossai came in the game, and it just hit a different type of level. You know what I'm saying? Like, when Philip Ossai's playing football, he plays football the way that everybody should play defense. And it's like, it's an aggressive style. It's the I don't care about your well-being. I'm trying to get the ball back to my team, and I'm doing this for my teammates and my brothers. I don't care about anybody else's feelings. And that's why I like the attitude Philip Ossai brought, because I wasn't seeing that from a lot of the defense. But Philip Ossai really brought that attitude at defensive end. And I like our defensive tackles. You talk about Casey Sales. He's always consistent. Miles Fox, Mario Kendricks. I think that Mario Kendricks and Fox in that Montreal game, I was like, okay, like in Montreal when Fox was getting script sacks and doing all that stuff, I thought they had a brilliant job. They did a great job. So I'm excited with that. It's just, can they sustain it? Like, can you sustain greatness the whole season? I didn't see that from everybody. Like, I seen flashes of greatness. Like, the person I say, Philip Ossai, I can see that. I can see him being great from week 1 to the Grey Cup. Julian, I can see him week 1 to the Grey Cup. Everybody else, it's like, all right, splash there, splash there, splash there, splash there. And then it's like, how can you go into this offseason and realize how you can get it from week 1 all the way to the Cup?
Did this D-line make the secondary better?
Absolutely. So you talk about just going off of that game against Montreal, the pass rush alone. So a lot of sacks didn't show up on the stat sheet in that game, but there was rushes that led to interceptions, and I think there was a lot of disruption from, of course, Julian Howsare, a lot of disruption from Philip Ossai. That D line was aggressive all year long, and then of course as a DB, it's like, okay, these boys are getting home. They're making my job easy because that quarterback, he has to get the ball out of his hands before he has to make his second read, and he's getting it out early. And so that happens. Now the DBs, you get to go out and eat. You saw Amos, he had a great year. You saw Katsatonis had a great year. That game against Toronto where Cats went and had 3 picks, you turn that film on, it's a lot of the pressure is getting in front of the quarterbacks there. They had to go through 2 quarterbacks that game. They go through the quarterbacks. Easy pitch and catch for Cats. So, and again, not taking anything away from Cats. Like, that dude was making plays. He's diving all over the place, making interceptions. But yeah, no, your D-line, your secondary is only going to be as good as your D-line. And I thought, the reason that secondary, all of those guys could have been all-stars this year. Cats, all-star. Jamal Peters could have been an all-star. Well, Jamal Peters was an all-star, but Destin Talbert could have been an all-star. Jonathan Moxey could have been one. Reggie Stubblefield could have made a name for himself too. But that entire secondary was, they were a product of that ferocious, aggressive, relentless D-line. And so I know, I agree, there were splashes from those guys, and like it's what we talk about with the youth, but like you talk about a player like Ossai who played 12 games this past season, you give him 6 more games. Yeah. That's 6 more opportunities for him to go out and put some great tape out there. So I think for those guys or the organization looking at that D-line, they should be really excited, especially with the combination of Casey Sales and Mario Kendricks and Fox. Like, I think all of those guys are, they're going to make great contributions, wherever they end up.
I'll stay with you on the secondary. Can we begin and end the debate that Hamilton's secondary was the best in 2025?
Oh, man. I love secondary play. I love watching DB play. And they were, during the regular season, they were one of those top units. I will say they're top 2. The play, of course, from the Saskatchewan Roughriders secondary was outstanding this year, and it was a big reason why they ended up winning the Grey Cup this year. But no, again, like I said, that entire secondary for Hamilton could have been all-stars, and I think that's just a testament to the talent that they had, and of course a testament to the to what the front office was doing too, in terms of assembling a team or assembling a unit that are very familiar with each other too, right? So there was familiarity with Moxie and Amos. Like they had familiarity. You had familiarity with Jamal Peters and Amos. Yes, and so there was, and then of course like the familiarity with Moxie playing for Coach Monson and Amos playing for Coach Monson in the past, and so you assemble these guys together, and now it's easier to kind of create a little bit of chemistry, and you could see that even from the beginning of the season. And a lot of these guys, they didn't give up a ton of explosion plays throughout the year. I know there were a handful that we can kind of nitpick at, but for the most part, these guys did an outstanding job in coverage, did an outstanding job creating turnovers. We talk about that all season long, the importance of creating turnovers, and they did that all year long. And you can point out points in the season where a lot of those guys did that. Cats had 6 picks. Jamal Peters had picks. You seeing guys, Amos got on the board, had a handful of interceptions. So there's guys that are getting turnovers, and that's one of the things that you want to see. And of course, not allowing explosions. I think this is definitely one of the top units. I don't know if I would say the best, but it was definitely one
in
of
the conversation.
Yeah, 100% in the conversation. Top 2 in my opinion for sure.
Same. We had some continuity on the D line and the secondary. There was some shuffling of the deck in the linebacking core throughout 2025. That's an opportunity going forward, though, right? To get that cohesion, to get that continuity, and to get that unit to another level.
Absolutely, and there's players that stepped up great at the linebacker position to make some plays. Definitely need more consistency and understanding of the game. And like we talking about our secondary, I really appreciate Dustin Talbert this season. I don't think that anybody understands why Dustin Talbert, in my opinion, is my number 1 defensive back. Just because Jamal Peters, he's a great football player, but he's been in the CFL. He's That's who he's supposed to be. Like, we expect that from Jamal Peters. Dustin Tolbert is in his second year in the Canadian Football League, and he plays boundary half. If anybody doesn't know, the thing about boundary half is it's the hardest position on defense, in my opinion, because normally who lines up to the boundary? Kenny Lawlers. You're getting the top of the top receivers using the waggle like Tim White, and he's going against it, and he did a tremendous job. And I'm not even saying, like, even the plays that happened over here when he got the ball caught up and everybody's like, oh, that's his fault. No. They were in zero pressure, and he was still right there in zero pressure, meaning the ball's supposed to be out in one Mississippi, and the ball's supposed to be out, and it was not. So I think Dustin Tolbert is one of those players that really solidified a hard position to find in that boundary half position. So I was extremely happy with his play. And then another guy was Amos. Amos was so consistent, just being there all the time, lining up, making plays when you need it most. And I really appreciate his game of helping other people learn how to play the game as well, too. Because I do feel like our secondary still needs to get better learning how to line up. Because the thing about the CFL, and we be the first people to tell everybody, is you got to learn how to line up to these tight ends and everything. We run double tight more than everybody. And we were getting... In that Montreal game, it was complete chaos. And I don't expect that from a veteran group like that. They're supposed to be able to line everybody up, and I think that's the next step. I think Amos does a great job at that, helping line people up and knowing where to go, but we need more people that understand who needs help on the defense. I don't think that when you're playing football, Matt, when you're playing football with a bunch of people, the first thing you need to do is learn everybody's weaknesses. No, it's the absolute truth. You got to learn everybody's weaknesses because we're delusional. So we think we're great at everything. So you have to mask it up like, hey, bro, hey, you know what you should do? Hey, just write this on a piece of paper in case this happened. And just write that down, because if you do that, oh my gosh, you defensive player of the year. It's kind of like you got to manipulate these guys to do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? So it can show up on game day. So you need leaders like that on defense that understands everybody when everybody else is also being delusional thinking it is, because it showed up on the tape that everybody didn't really know how to line up in the playoff game. And that was the biggest thing. And I'm like, these guys are way too athletic, way too talented to be missing these simple plays. And that's the reason Montreal was able to do as they please in that game.
We talked about offense. We talked about defense. We got to talk about special teams, because we had a special teams unit, and it began with Marc Liegghio. What a year this guy had.
Okay, so he was Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable.
Yeah.
We talk about his performance. A lot of the games that one game that stuck out was actually near the tail end of the season. The man goes 7 for 7 against Ottawa.
Crazy.
And that was one of the games where it's like, okay, it doesn't matter where they are on the field. They're going to call on his name, and he's going to drop a field goal, and it doesn't matter where they're lined up. He dropped 55 yarders from Winnipeg, and then again he had walk-off field goals. Of course, his number was called during the playoffs. It made it happen then too. And so I thought he was a man. And then he was on the streak during the year where it seemed it's okay. All right, Leggio's out there. It's automatic.
Another 3 points.
It's automatic.
Yeah.
So I thought again just his performance this year, and again just I love his story too, coming from Winnipeg and just being overlooked there, and then comes here and really made a name for himself. And so this is another player that a lot of fans, Hamilton fans, and of course league-wide are going to be hearing his name a lot more. So I thought he had an outstanding season, and I love seeing players like that just really turn things around.
Yeah, there were other stars on special teams too. Tyler Ternowski, Brian Cole, Constantino had a great year as well too. 0.2 yards off the single season record for punt yard average. This is a great special teams unit.
It was a great special teams.
Isaiah Wooden, I don't want to forget about him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The special teams was great. You want to see more consistency, because the way that we looked at the special teams, we're like, they can win us football games if the offense doesn't do anything. So once you give, like I said, once you give a certain description of what you can do, it has to be consistent, because you're banking on it throughout this season as well. You look at some of the games, we need some of the ball back. We punt the ball. off somebody who picks it up. One of the young rookies picks it up. We get the ball right in the red zone, score a touchdown. Isaiah Wooden, we struggle a little bit. Isaiah Wooden breaks it out, touchdown. And that's what you started to expect. And when he got hurt, he never really got back to that level, and we could never really get back to that level of dominance. I think that we made a bunch of great plays where like people like Tyler Ternowski had to step up, play kickoff, and make a bunch of plays. But earlier in the season, he was blocking punts and doing all that. And I think that all comes from and stemmed from a guy like Isaiah Wooden. Once you got a guy like that that's performing like that, he raises everybody's bar, because no grown man wants to be in the special team room and only hear one name. You're like, man, I got to make some plays. I got to do something, right? So that's why you love having players like that, because he elevates everybody else's game. And I feel like if we could stay a little more consistent, kind of like Marc Liegghio, who was batting at 90%, now you're like, oh my gosh, this is a breeze. We don't have to worry about nothing as long as these guys are doing what they've been doing all season. So it's that thing, is how can you keep these guys motivated from week 1 all the way to 18?
And that's a big key, because you win 2 of the 3 phases of the game, you're probably going to win.
Absolutely. And I would say, everybody says 2 of the 3. I would say it has to include special teams in there. Just me studying the CFL game, it has to include special teams in there, because the thing about special teams is you can get quick scores off of special teams. Like, a special teams could just ruin everything. You could be playing lights out defense, and then every time you get a turnover, they punt the ball, they go score or something, or like you block the punt or something. So I feel like it has to include either defense and offense, or offense and special teams.
I agree with that too, Sim, because special teams can flip the field too.
Yeah.
You know, its field position is such a huge component of the Canadian Football League, and so having a great punter like Constantino who can pin these guys deep. You got our defense. The defense is flying out there, and the opposing offense is starting at the 3-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, like, that's more times than not you're going to be holding these guys to 3 and out, or 2 and out, and or turnovers at least. So I thought that having opportunities to flip that field or field position is huge. And then of course being able to get you have guys like Brian Cole on special teams, who's also disruptive. So special teams is a huge component of the CFL.
And then you even look at the Constantine in the playoff. You know what those coffin kicks do for a football team? Oh my! He didn't get a lot of love this year just because of how consistent Marc Liegghio was at the kicking position. But Constantine, he did a great job this season, flipping the field multiple times. You're gonna shank some. That's part of the game. But the what we expected from Constantine is what he consistently did throughout this season. And I feel like he did a great job doing that. I just feel like we need to find a way to get the sparked all the time. You like every week. You like, hey Speedy, what you need, bro? What? Hey, your kid coming? I'm gonna go buy Speedy kid a bunch of toys, because I need Speedy to be Speedy every single week. It's like whatever you can pour into your teammates, that you absolutely need to make sure that everybody's elevating at a high level. You have to do that for your teammates. Like, you have to understand who your sparks is and gets the team going consistently.
This Ticats team is not going to be exactly the same next year, right? Every offseason, every team goes through this. Players come and go. It's just the nature of the business. What's it like being a free agent? Is it stressful? Are you anxious? Are you like, what are the emotions that you feel?
I'm such a wimp, yo. I'm so emotional during free agency that I know the Ticats just love it. You know what I'm saying? Like now that I look back at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, you know,
you think I should have played it cool?
They manipulated you, huh?
They didn't do nothing that I didn't want to. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing about free agency is, all your intrusive thoughts come into your mind. You start thinking about everything. Like, there's times I was defensive player of the year and I was still like, just because it's like, it's something you care about so much, and the thing about it that I tell a lot of free agents, especially going into free agency, is just don't take anything personal, because like, the game is the game, like this, you only get to play this game for a certain amount of time. There's certain players that like going team to team and doing this, but like, you have to know what works for you. Like, where can you go and be yourself and perform at a high level? I never understood why people would be like, you know what, I just got this award here, did this here, and then go somewhere else, and then they're not the same. environments matter. And the cool thing about being a Ticat is ain't no better environment than this. I'm talking about facilities wise, the way you get treated, you get fed 3 times a week. It's a certain standard that's here in Hamilton where it's a professional level. And you can ask anybody that been here in Hamilton, like, you're getting treated like the pros, from the equipment staff to all the head coaches to all of that. And free agency is one of those things where it's just like you got to stay out of your own head and you got to talk to people that know about the football game and understand the game, and not just football game, the Canadian football game, because it's like you get lost in the sauce, I call it, because you're like, man, they just gave that guy all this money and they trying to give me da-da-da-da-da. Chill out, bro. It's like that's not how the game go. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't trip, yo. Like, I think about my career. I'm like, I never cared about being the highest paid at the end of the day. I was like, I'm cool. Just let me sit in the little mid-range, whatever. Like, I could get Aluminium and all those other guys money, but you wanna be able to have the reins to do what you want to do. Sometimes you gotta do what you have to do what you want to do in this league. And the thing about playing football in this league is the money gonna come and go. Nobody making enough money to just be like, oh, you know what? I need $200K because if I take this 180, bro, you still getting hit 51% on taxes, bro. Don't even trip. Sometimes it's just better to stay at that 115 so you can get all the money. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's the game within the game, because people just see a big number and want to get the big number just so they could tell everybody I got the big number. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like consistency outlasts all that, because people that get that big number, woo, let me tell you something about when you get that big number, what the GMs and head coaches and owners do. Okay, we ain't make the Grey Cup, we ain't make the playoffs. Okay, let's look at this salary. Who's up top? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's just the game, you know what I'm saying? So when you're going into free agency, don't have too much ego into it, because we're playing this game for the average life expectancy on football, like 4.5 years or something. Not even. So you have to be able to be like, how can I make sure I get the number of years I want to do playing this game of football? Because the only thing in this game is currency. The way you get your currency is having tape. So if you can continually to play this game, you never know when your big break gonna come where you can demand, I need this, I'm standing on it, that's what I want. And sometimes you got to do what's best for the football team. Like, a lot of people say they great teammates, and then you see free agency, and they take $250K of the pot. Now you got Joe Smo playing defensive back. You got Joe Smo playing D-end. You got Joe Smo playing wide receiver. You got Joe Smo playing. And now what? You know what I'm saying? Now you back to losing football games.
4-14. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And that's just part of the game. You got, like, there's so many times I was like, you know what? I'm cool. Just make sure this guy there, just get him paid. I'll take the L. I'll make it back in the streets. You know what I mean? We love Hamilton.
That's awesome. But Sim makes a great point in terms of like facilities, how you're treated. We've heard a lot of Ticats players talk about this, whether it's Bo Levi Mitchell, Kenny Lawler, a lot of the defensive guys, like they love being here, and guys talk about that.
That's the next thing too. A lot of players or a lot of coaching staffs, or you see the front offices, they'll talk about the players, but again, the players are also talking about the cultures in other organizations, right, other teams. This locker room is a really good locker room. There's a lot of energy, a lot of positivity in there. You're going to be uplifted. These are going to be guys that are going to rally around you. They're gonna, there's a veteran locker room. There's a veteran presence. Yeah. So there's guys that are going to talk about these things. And so going into free agency, I know I've done those things in myself. I was going into Winnipeg, same thing. Talk about Winnipeg, or when I left and I went to Calgary, I had a few guys that told me about what Calgary's locker room was like. So we always, you're always going to get that, get the 411, an inside scoop on some of these teams. And so it's important. And making your decision, you also have to do, I always got to look at the best fit for you. You got to understand, where are, for me as a Canadian DB, where are teams playing Canadian DBs, right? What teams are not playing Canadian DB? Okay, they got an All-American secondary. That's not a team I'm going to go and, and go and play at. So you got to understand, you have to be self-aware during free agency, and you can't take things personally at all because a team is going to throw a little offer at you, and you're going to call your agent or call your whoever, call your spouse, and say, oh man, why are they offering me this? What's going on? Am I a bad player? It's like, that's just the game. Like that's how that's part of the negotiation process. And of course, for me, what helped was always having like guys that I can consult with, whether it was an older player or a former player, guys that, that just understand the game, understand, those little nuances behind, behind the scenes. So that was one of the things that helped for me going into free agency. And I never stressed during that time. I don't know about you, Sir. I didn't stress during free agency. I really didn't, but I don't know if it was delusion on my part, whatever it was, but I didn't stress during those free agency moments. And just, it's just like, for me, I just looked at it as an exciting time. It's like, okay, which teams are, looking at what do these teams think about
right.
me? What teams are considering me, what teams aren't. So, again, I didn't have to go through that process too many times, but when I did, it was something that I just kind of took it and ran with it.
How'd you deal with the stress?
Man, I'm going to be honest. I was extremely blessed to have a partner at the time that understood what it was. And every time free agency time was coming, she would fly me out the country. Because I go crazy. I be on Twitter going crazy. I can't hold. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was one of those guys where it's like it mattered so much to me that I felt like I wanted to be included in like everything, and that's not the game. Everybody has a job to do, and all you can do is control the controllable factors. Make sure you come into camp in shape. Make sure that when you get on the team that you're being a good teammate. Make sure that you don't let what happened in the free agency come into the locker room, and don't be like, oh man, I knew I should have been making more. And then you look at other players that are making more and less, not producing. You can't worry about that stuff. That's the business. The business should always be the business, and nobody should know about your business. I don't understand like when it got cool to like, hey, I make this much, I make this much, I make this much. The business is nobody's business. Especially if you're trying to be a good teammate. It's hard to be a good teammate if you're telling everybody about the business. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be a good teammate, you got to keep the business out of the locker room, out of the football field. Everybody know what's up, and like the guys that are fortunate and blessed to have opportunities and get a little bit, that's when you take care of your teammates if you really care about them. So that's one of those things where like the way I dealt with the stress though is just like, understand that like I'm a spiritual guy. Like everything that's meant to be is gonna be. Like nothing that's happening is not for a reason, you know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, free agency is one of those things. I just tell players like, if you hearing something that don't make sense, contact somebody that you trust in the organization that you was at that makes sense all season, because we all are with the same people every single day. If you can't read and understand everybody you with, you're not locked in the football season. Like if you can't look at if you can't FaceTime your coach, look them in the eyes and talk to them and know what's what, you're not doing your family any justice throughout the whole football season. That means you out doing everything else but what you're supposed to do and focusing on your job. You need to understand how everything moves, like how this coach acts and responds to this, how this coach acts. Just pick up your phone and call somebody, because at the end of the day, everybody's in the business. That's why I say you leave the business out of it. Your agent like, oh yeah, we got to go and get this more money. You know why your agent wants you to go get that money? So y'all can give them that little 3%. Y'all still giving these guys 3%? Crazy. But anyway.
Different conversation.
It's a different conversation. But at the end of the day, it's like, don't trip over the small things. And I know 10K, 15K, 20K, that's not nothing really to trip over in Canada. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about where you can sustain your career and have a great career. Now, if you like 100K, 50K, 40K off, okay. now you can talk. But if it's 10, 15, 5, that's not going to do nothing. Like, you're not even going to see that. You know what I mean? So you got to understand and do what makes sense. So some people just want you to get the big number, so you got to pay off of the big number. You know what I mean?
I appreciate both of you, not only today, but all season long, sharing these personal stories and anecdotes and feelings. It's much appreciated. I'm sure the viewers and the followers to Ticats this week appreciate that as well. Let me ask you, do you have a special play, guy, moment, game in 2025 that maybe is the highlight for you, Sim? What do you think?
Oh, man, that's a great question, Rick.
You want me to go first?
No. Actually, you can go first. No, I'll go first.
Okay,
I like this. You know, I don't even read the notes when Rick send them in the group chat because I like the way everything freestyles.
I knew
it. but like, in my opinion, the highlight of the season for me was Julian. I love Julian. I played with Julian. I understand how hard work Julian Howsare works as a football player and as a teammate. Because a lot of people's like, oh, go get this person. He could do this. He could do that. And I'm one of those guys. Give me a Julian Howsare where I know he's going to be where he's supposed to be every single time. He's going to play at 110%. He's skillful. He knows, he understands the defense, and he's coachable. You can communicate with him, and he's not selfish, so you both are able to make plays together. And having people like that on the football team, it helps football teams grow so fast, and people with no ego and stuff like that. I was just so proud of Julian. And Philip Ossai in camp, you're like, oh, he got flashes. He got flashes. But then when you're around a Julian Howsare, those flashes are going to turn into productions when you get the opportunity. Because he wasn't just that dominant in camp where it was like, yo, Philip Ossai is the starter. Start him right now. That was not the case. He got to sit and relax and be around a guy like Julian. And the thing about Julian as well, too, is he's going to coach you like I love players that are not scared to make everybody great. Some players try to hide all the talents that God gave you and don't try to share it with nobody. When you're extremely confident as a football player, you're trying to help everybody be their absolute best on the football team. And having a person like Julian, you can guarantee and bank that he's doing that. So my highlight was Julian, and not only the way that he played, rushing the passer, all the quarterback hurries, but also the way that he was dropping in coverage. He dropped a couple of picks. You owe me a couple of picks, Julian. You should have picked it off, and maybe you would have got Defensive Player of the Year, and they wouldn't have gave it to Betts, who was getting 15-yard penalties all season. But that's beside the point. But like, but to be honest, I think he did such a great job, not only at everything, being the player that coach counted on the absolute most. And you don't got to tell me he counted on. Coach didn't tell me he counted on the most. I watched the film. I see the stuff you're asking this man to do consistently. And then also watching his counterpart, how good he was when he came in and just how he was able to take off, like that's how you know you got a good defensive line room, when it's this guy's doing great, this guy's doing great. And then don't forget the guys in the middle, they start producing. And I really appreciate that from Julian. So my thing was just the resurgence of Julian Howsare. Like, come on, baby. He was a great watch today. And I didn't even see my boy do the spin. His spin move wasn't even like, he didn't even use the spin like he used to. He was just like, man, these guys suck, bro. Like, I'm just going to speed rush. I'm going to just use my hands. Bro, you know what I'm saying? He didn't even get into his bag. I'm telling you, he didn't. But yeah, it was definitely the way that Julian played. And then next up it would be Philip Ossai. And then my moment of the year that got me back into shape. Y'all, I was like 258 pounds until I seen Jamal Peters knock somebody head off over there in the corner. Oh,
Edmonton.
Yes.
Edmonton.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my play of the year. I don't care when Jamal Peters did that, I got the most goosebumps I've got I was like, oh my goodness. I called all my homegirls and I'm like, yo, you watch this play and tell me how this make you feel. They don't know nothing about football. They was like, oh, I was like, told you. You know what I'm saying? And it was just one of those plays that I was like, that's Hamilton Tiger Cat football. Because a lot of people, like, yes, the offense was balling, doing their thing, but you got to remember where you at. You know, we in the Hamilton business, baby. We on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what we appreciate, and that's what the city of Hamilton grows to love. Like, yes, watching Kenny catch one-handers, that is exciting, but watching somebody get their head knocked off in Hamilton, in the Steel City, you see, I've seen his head get knocked off, or the Edmonton player's head get knocked off by Jamal, and then you look in the sky, and all you see is the steam from all the steam mills and the iron and all that stuff. I was like, let's go. This is Hamilton. So, yeah, for sure, the way that Julian played all season, helping Philip Ossai become one of the elite pass rushers, and then my play of the year was definitely that Jamal Peters hit. And then he came back with that pick, too. I like that, too. That was cool, but it was against Strebler, so I was like,
Still counts. Still counts. The only bad play about the Jamal Peters hit was that he got a penalty which I still don't agree with.
It was a clean hit. That was clean.
Absolutely.
See what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, if the thing is, if Goose hit was legal, the way they describe the rules, the way they look. Every year, the CFL come and describe the rules to us and tell us exactly what you can't do. And the only people that get penalized is the people that do what you're supposed to do, and the people that they say don't do it, they don't even penalize. It's so crazy.
Did you have a favorite moment?
Player? Man. I'm okay, so I'm going to do what Sim did, because Sim had a handful of plays that he just shared. So I'm going to share a handful of plays, too. One for me was, I love the Jamal Peters interception. I know it was against Strebler, but that was one of the, like, that to intercept the screen. I don't care who it's against. To intercept the screen is outstanding. It's the execution, and then, of course, it's play recognition. So I love just, like, the combination of all of that.
Give it to them, Matt. Tell them, though. But tell the fans why it's, like, if you're a football player, why it's easy, though. You know, when you're going against a Strebler, the back to the same side, certain receivers around.
You see it. The play, it's going to tell itself.
You see,
it's scripting itself. The play is scripting itself, but it's still.
You still have to anticipate.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You still got to do it. You still got to do the play. You got to make the play. And so, yeah, he went out and made that play. And the only thing that if I'm gonna nitpick is like, you should have scored. You should have scored. But again, aside from that, I love the play from Jamal Peters all year long. And then another DB that I want to talk about too is, again, I know we highlight Destin Talbert. Destin Talbert was like, you know, a lot of things he did this year, it didn't show up on film, right? So it's locking down receivers that are coming at that boundary side. And I thought, you know, there was a lot of times I was seeing he was showing up as the PFF Player of the Week. So he wasn't getting the Player of the Week, but he was getting the PFF.
I ain't putting too much into PFF, y'all.
But again, but some of the numbers that they were showing, it was for him. He was a guy that he wasn't giving up any receptions, you know, and he was like, they were saying that I don't remember the stat word for word, but it was when there was a reception that was made on the other side, or he was always step for step with his receivers, right? And so that's
never in bad position.
He's not in bad position.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's something that stands out to me. Again, it's not something that shows up on tape, or it does show up on tape, but it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. Yeah. But it's something that, you know, if you're watching these games, you're hearing these, it's something that you see.
Can I add one thing about that Destin Talbert? Destin Talbert was the best defender in coming into the box and defending the run as well, too. From the boundary half position, where normally you're the high player, and when they reduce the split of the number 2 receiver, now Destin Talbert's coming in and pretty much playing the same linebacker position. He was the best at coming in when they conduce the box and try to make it a little linebacker thing, at coming in the box and making plays.
And the thing is, too, they're trying to isolate those DBs, so they're trying to put them in space, and they don't think DBs can tackle. And that's
why they stopped doing it to that side, and they started going. I was like, they're doing it to the field now? These guys is bold.
Right. So, but yeah, so just the play from him, and of course you can highlight Cats as well. 3 interception game. You know, no one else in the secondary did that. And so Cats is playing. Then I'm going to go over to the offensive side too, and I want to talk about Keandre Smith coming out. He had the 136-yard performance going out to BC, and then had another 100+ yard performance back-to-back weeks. And I thought just, you know, him coming out and and playing the level that he did, and he became a receiver that Bo and Milanovic and the rest of that offense could rely on. And I'm excited to see what he does in 2026. So those are a couple guys that stuck out, and I'm not going to highlight any particular games or anything like that, but like just certain players and their performance throughout the season were some things that like really stuck out to me.
I'll reflect on 2 moments for me, and that is from rookie Devin Verasuk.
Yeah.
We're in Guelph post game. He comes all the way up the stairs from the locker room. He's played however many minutes, defense and special teams. Does a post game interview. We lose power. He's still ready to talk football. And then week 4, Ticats are off the bye. They're 0-2. He gets a big INT, pick 6. He's a guy that Ted Goveia drafted first overall. Really special moment, and I think Ted's legacy is going to live on in Devin Verasuk in this 2025 Ticats team. Let's look ahead quickly to 2026. Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
What do you see from this Ticats team going into next season? I know there's so many variables that we don't know.
Right. I think one of the things, of course, we don't know who's back, who's coming, who's sticking around, and who's going to be coming, new faces that are going to be in the organization. But building off of this is going to be a group that has a little bit more experience. So this is going to be, we talked about how, having that veteran presence in that locker room and leadership and things like of that nature. But now you're going to have a group of guys that have, they have that experience. And so they have that year. And so I think just building off of that, I think this is going to be something for this Ticat organization, the fans, everybody here in the city, for something that they can look forward to, is building off the youth and then building off of, they made a run. They had a great run this year in the regular season. And, I think this is a team, I think sometimes you look at Saskatchewan last year, they had that same type of feeling last year where they got disappointed in the playoffs, made a run during the regular season, and then they fell short in the playoffs, and then they follow that up with a Grey Cup victory. So I think, if you're a Ticat fan, you're in this organization, you're in the building, you look at, you talked about looking at other people's failures and learning from that, but you can also learn from their successes too.
Sure, yeah.
And so you see the success with Saskatchewan. Hey, listen, we can do the same thing. So I think there's a lot of promise here in Hamilton.
Yeah, Sim, this was a 7-win team in 2024, 11 wins in 2025. Pretty good foundation to build on for 2026.
Absolutely. But the thing about the Canadian Football League is it's such a small league. That's why free agency and all this other stuff is so important. And I think there's a lot to build on it. And the building is just making sure that the young players come back and they're not the same. They need to be visibly better, visibly way better than the way they were a year before of playing football. That is what's going to help us, because we talk about the chemistry, and we shouldn't have any problem with chemistry. Like, I don't think that another year is going to make our offense 100 times better, because the CFL game is the CFL game. Kenny Lawler in the CFL game understands the CFL game. Scott Milanovic in the CFL game understands the CFL game. Bo Levi understands the CFL game. Like that, those are your leaders. So I'm like, okay, that's what it is. It's going to be what it is on that side. On the defensive side, though, I think that's where our biggest growth should and will happen, is if these guys that can look at this season and be like, what are the ways that I can get better mentally, physically, and be able to come out and play a whole season. Like you got to set ridiculous goals for yourself. Like, I used to go in during the off season and be like, I don't want to miss a practice all season, because if you practice every single day, everything else is going to take care of itself. Just from a mindset and just from being able to see things. When you see things over and over again, everything just becomes a stimulus response. It's like, okay, the number 2 receiver coming in. Okay, here come the run. It's just because all of the CFL game is all the same stuff, y'all. Like, nobody reinventing the wheel. All these coaches run the same plays. You see that play, you're going to see it over here. So it's just about getting your eyes right and understanding. So this Hamilton Ticat team, I feel like our offense, if these guys can come in and get better, find a way to get better. That's the only way your team get better, is if you go individually in the offseason and come back and find a way to get better. And if we can get Greg Bell and our offensive line, if we can get them to be better, find a way you can lock in, be way more disciplined. Kenny Lawler, he's going to be Kenny just because he's one of those guys that takes it serious all the time. You listen and you talk to him, and he's like, man, I'm just going to go work, and I'm trying to find ways to get better because he understands where he's at in his career. He knows that he has to be Kenny Lawler all the time because that's just the way it is right now. And then for the other guys, he just got to get better. Keandre had a great season. Now he's going to be like, okay, maybe we can give this guy a bigger role. I already seen him start getting a big role. I seen times he was the first read for Bo Levi. So he's going to have to find a way he can lock in this offseason and get better, because being the same is not okay in football. It's just not okay. Like, it's just not the way like the game of football is played. And if everybody can lock in on that defense and find a way to let's get like 15-20% better, holy moly. You know what I'm saying?
Cumulatively, that's 1% better for each guy, basically.
Every single time. So that's the thing. It's just about taking care of your off season and taking it very serious and understanding that, like, this is a kid's game with King's ransom. Like kids play this football game, but at this level, people feed their families with this game. So you don't want to come into the season being the guy like, ups, his hamstring pulled already. Ups, he wasn't working out during the off season. You want to put yourself in the best situation. We call it, you going to Vegas, you want to give yourself the best odds. What are the best odds? Hey, I know that, CFL salary ain't that big, but I want to play football for a long time. I'm going to California where I can train 3 times a day and make sure that when I come to season, it's not even close. You know who I love watching train during the off season? Tim White. That's why I got his hat on, because he reminds me of one of those true football players. I love the way Tim White goes about his offseason. If you everybody that got Instagram or anything, watch how Tim White trains. That is the professional way of training. Go get yourself a specific special trainer. We're going to give some free game on the podcast. This is you got to find somebody that can get you better in football at least 3 times a week. Get you better in football, whether that's just on the football field, talking football. How important is it just to talk football during the off season? Just keep your mind into it. Like when you're doing your training, when you're dropping, think about, oh yeah, this is a drop I need to work on. Will linebackers, what drop y'all need to work on? Getting underneath the number 2 receiver, curling in, being able to feel them, put some cones on both sides. Tell your trainer, look this way, shuffle that way, look before you break. And then it's the same thing with the Mike linebackers. What is the most stressful thing for you as a Mike linebacker? When you get deep in your drop, coming back and coming to balance to make a tackle. So you want to simulate things that you struggle with during the season, and put it in your off-season repertoire. I joke with Bo all the time. I'm like, Bo, y'all would never, ever get one of them digs behind me ever since because I practice that all off season. I'm practicing buzzing to there as fast as possible where it looks like I might overrun it, and then just being able to flip my hips and get back right. And then you got to be able to watch your film and self-scout and be hard on yourself. It's hard to be hard on yourself, but you got to be able to self-scout yourself and be like, why didn't I line up right on this play? Why was I like 50-50 not knowing where to blitz or stay in coverage? Like, what was the reason? Be hard on yourself, and then go tell your coach, hey, coach, if I used to go to Coach Ross, if I do this wrong, hey, just take me out the game, or, fine me, take some money away from me, because you want that kind of pressure on you if you really want to be great, because that's the only way you reach greatness. You got to be obsessed with this stuff, you know what I mean? And like the off season is the time to not only get your body and mind right, enjoy your family, but it's time to fall in love with the game again. Don't fall in love with the game during season. Fall in love with when March start hitting around and you training. Oh, you should already be in that mode. You know what it's like when you in shape. You can't tell me nothing.
By then you're doing 2-a-days.
You see what I'm saying?
You're already starting to get dialed in.
Absolutely.
At that point. So yeah, I'm with you on that, Sim. And I want to talk to you also about Tim White, because I was at an event, and I've never seen Tim White's offseason at all. But I was at an event, and I was talking to him, and he was telling me about what the stuff that he does in the offseason. And he's being that he said he goes to California, he's on the beach, he's doing footwork on the beach. He's talking about doing stuff with his trainer. And I'm in my head, I was like, man, this dude gets it. Like, he is really getting it. And that's the way, like you said, that's the way you're supposed to get it done. I know for me, when I was during my off seasons, my thing was like those off season I was in Winnipeg. Now there's no beaches for me to go to in Winnipeg.
If there were, they were frozen.
Of course, but the thing was there were other guys that were around, and we're indoors, we're in the indoor facilities, and you're talking about the drops. We got quarterbacks that are coming out. We're doing our one-on-ones, or we're doing our drops. We're locked in but again, it's with talented guys. So there was guys like Dembski that were out there, other guys that were local, and then of course the guys that were of course on the team. So you're dialed in with the team. We have an indoor facility that we're training at too. So that's how you're supposed to get it done too. So again, you don't have a beach. You're in Winnipeg. You're freezing your butt off. There's still places you can still go and get your work in.
Yeah, don't think that you got to go to California to get your work in. No. Because I blew out my knee, and then I was here getting you just have to develop a certain style of method. I'm gonna give y'all the freest game real quick, y'all. This is how you take care of your body. Go and find something where you can work on them little muscles. Before you start training, start working on them little muscles consistently. Go find you a nice little hot yoga class. Go find you one of them Pilates classes and work on those little muscles so you can get them back firing. And then you want to start, when you're training, you don't train for things to be perfect, because football's not a perfect game. You got to train laying and uncomfortable, doing everything in the worst possible situation. Make it as hard as possible. Like during off season, I tweak my hamstring at least 3 times just to make sure, just because I need to know what my body can take and how fast I can recover after something happens. Don't let something happen be the first time it's happening on the football field while you're training and supposed to be helping your brothers get money for their families and stuff. Take care of all of that stuff in the off season. So it's one of those things where the players just got to be extremely locked in during the off season. Don't cheat your off season, y'all. Do not cheat the off season. That's how you make money. And look, everybody be like, yo, why Simoni be talking so much ish to every single player, yo? You know what used to make me so mad? I used to be on Instagram, scrolling on Instagram, watching people do 100 million pound squats, not doing no running. I'm like, and these the guys that you expect me to come up here and take serious? Go and learn from people. We talked about it earlier on the podcast about learning from other people's mistakes. Like certain people, it's a reason why they only play 3 years, or the same people is hurt every single season, or this is always you can watch and I'd be like, all right, he gonna make it to week 8 doing the way he doing. You know what I mean?
And one thing too, you said don't cheat the offseason, Sim. And I always used to hear guys say, it's okay, I'm gonna use training camp to get ready for the season. And I'm like, that's the worst thing that you could do. Right? Yeah, that's the worst thing that you could do. It's you need to be ready in the off season, because once day 1 of training camp, I'm ready to go. And my thing too is, and there's been moments where I was the starter, I've been moments where I was the backup, and it didn't matter what the situation was. I was never missing a day of training camp. In my career, I never missed a day of training camp.
I feel that, same page.
And I never missed a day of practice either. I was always ready to go, because my thing, and also, again, you can call it anxiety, you call it whatever you want, but I always knew if there's an opportunity and I'm hurt, I'm giving someone else a chance to take my job, right? And that's how I got on the field. I got on the field because a guy got hurt, and I was ready to go, right? And so it's you got to be ready to go, and it's not using the offseason to chill. It's using the offseason to push, because once day 1 of training camp starts, your number is going to be called. And if you pull your hamstring first week of training camp, what good are you?
Wally Pipp, that's how good you is. And the thing about it,
right?
And the thing about it though, Matt, is when you come in training camp, you got to come in there being the ultimate teammate. Nothing messes up training camp than people getting injured in training camp first week because they not in shape. Because now Matt Bucknor, he got to take extra reps and do all this extra stuff, and now his hamstring might go because it's just he's not supposed to be doing all these reps. There's a science to this as well too. You got to help your brothers out by coming in shape and doing the things that you're supposed to do. That's the most selfish thing I ever heard. Like somebody saying, "Oh, I'm gonna just lose the rest of the weight or come in shape." I remember one season I did that I forget what year. It was 2004 because I just came from the NFL. I was mad big and everything. I came, and Coach O sat me in the office. He said, like, don't ever come this big. I know you're just coming back from this NFL, but don't you ever come to camp this big again. You know what I'm saying? No, but that's real. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me game that I can understand and know. Tell me it real. Like, don't sugarcoat nothing. Tell me what you need so I can give it to you. And that's another thing. I think we got a great strength coach that's going to contact everybody and be like, hey, you need to come at this weight, and this is how I think you could be the most productive, you know? Or just ask, yo. Right. There's people that really understand this game, like know this game to like the T, like, and you know, people be so like stuck in their feelings that they just don't want to ask for the information, yo. What J. Cole say? Pride is the devil.
It's the devil.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, come and get the game. Don't talk to the people that play like 8-9 games a year. Go talk to the people that's dressed every week, that go to practice every day, that got the same energy. And that's another thing about being around the football team. You got to be able to control your energy, yo. When you're around all of these people, you can't be like this all day. You don't never know who this person is. You know, he get a bad call from his girlfriend, his phone bill too high, he a different person. No, bro, you come in the locker room, it's a locker room with the boys, yo. Give everybody the best energy because y'all getting money together, you know what I'm saying? So, like, if you need to go work on your energy, the way I used to do it was I used to volunteer, right, with the most annoyingest kids that I could possibly find, right? And then try to give them the best energy all the time. Like, I go with the boys, and then I go find the worst kids, the baddest guys. Like, who the baddest kids? All right, I want to work with them this year, you know? And I'll go work with them. And as much as they annoy me, I still give them great energy, you know? And you got to work on all this stuff because it's not natural. I don't care. It's not natural to be around a bunch of men and just give great energy all the time and then things going on in your life and not bringing it to work. But if you practice, just like anything, if you practice on anything, you'll be able to do it. So be able to control that energy. Don't be one of those guys where if you don't get your medicine, you can't stay consistent, bro. For real, bro. Hey, we passed it. We got to keep it real with these guys because, like, a lot of these guys be coming here and be like, 1 second they up here, next second they up here, you know what I mean? Like, consistency matters, yo. Consistency matters, especially when you're around a bunch of hungry men. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys with life lessons. your knowledge of football is off the charts. It's like it was so much fun just to listen to you guys and interact with you guys and sharing your knowledge with the fan base as well. Absolutely. So thank you for an awesome 2025. I know it didn't turn out the way that the Ticats wanted to and not winning the trophy at the end, but you know, things to look forward to, new rules next year. Yep. You know, the CFL schedule comes out December 9th. Before you know it, free agency in February, the draft in the spring.
It's coming.
Training camp. Is it June yet, right?
Another thing to look out for is our fans coming back. Let's go. Like, I just want to make sure our fans know how much we appreciated that playoff football game in the Eastern Final. And my dream is for it to be like that all throughout the season. Like, that energy and vibe is so contagious. Like, it fed me for, like, the game was so hard on me, but then just looking at the stands and watching everybody cheer, watch everybody have such a great time, that fill your heart up so much just to see a city come out and just support something that they love and just laugh about it, cry about it, cheer about it, just the raw emotions of Hamilton. And I just want to give a big A+ to the Hamilton Tiger Cat fans for the way that they support the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And with that being said, make sure you get them season seats, baby.
Love the sales pitch, too. Thank you, guys, all season long. Tremendous podcast. Ticats This week. Appreciate all the love on whether it's social media or the podcast as well. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Ticats This week out for 2025.
This has been the Ticats This Week on the Ticats Audio Network. Like, follow, and get a deeper understanding of your Hamilton Tiger Cats.